My husband and I have 5 kids and our 2 youngest are autistic, and this is 12 tips for sensory overload. Meet Ezra, our 9-year-old with level 3 autism. Some sensory input that he experiences, I won't even notice, but it'll really bother him. And so I'll have to be a detective as a parent to try and figure out what's bothering him and how he needs my support, what he really needs from me. Simon, our 5-year-old, has level 1 autism, and he has a really hard time with tags on the back of his shirts. So when we buy a new shirt, I just automatically tear off the tag. Ezra, on the other hand, is nonverbal, but one time he was obsessed with my pocket. And I remember thinking, what in the world do you want to do with my pocket? He kept trying to put his hands in my front pockets of my jeans, and finally I just let him to show him that I didn't have anything in there. Then he pulled out a candy wrapper that I didn't even notice was in my front of my jeans pocket, which is kind of amazing that he could hear a wrapper that I couldn't even tell was in my own pocket. The first 6 tips we'll be talking about have to do with creating a sensory space or an environment, a sensory room. And the last 6, 7 to 12, have to do with different activities that can really help calm your child or someone you know, or even yourself. And the last tip I'll be sharing, tip number 12, has helped Ezra and Simon the most. Even though they're so different from each other, they're practically on like opposite sides of the autism spectrum. But these are things that have really helped us. These 12 tips are from our home to yours. We hope that they'll be helpful. We're sharing different types of tips because honestly, kids will need different things. Not every autistic person is going to be helped or be supported by all of these tips. They're different so that you can pick and choose and figure out what's best for you and your family. But these are from our home to yours with love. And please, if you have concerns about autism and sensory overload, please talk to your professional. Tip number 1, create a calm space that has low lighting, music that your child enjoys or that you enjoy. There are lights that will really, really bug certain people, like fluorescent lights. In Ezra and Simon's sensory bed, they can actually just, with a touch of their finger, change the lights from lighter and darker and change different colors. And that gives them more independence and autonomy because then if something bugs them, they can go and change it themselves. One of my favorite things in sensory rooms are bubble walls or columns with bubbles, because even that's a visual effect that is usually really pleasing and people can really like that and just kind of stare at that, zone out, and feel peaceful and calm. Simon has a playlist of songs that he particularly likes, and to me, it's the most random playlist ever. There's some Disney songs, there's some songs from car videos, like Pixar car videos, and then there's also songs that are like Christian songs and songs that he learned at church, and songs that don't have words, that are instrumental, but it's his playlist. And then Ezra really likes songs that are sung by his older brother. He will go on his iPad and find the song and music that his brother sings, and he'll just play it over and over and over again. He'll play certain parts of the song that he really likes over and over and over again. And the fact that he can do that himself really helps him use his autonomy and independence, and it really helps calm him down, which really helps create an environment that he likes. Tip number 2, beware of smells. So when you're creating an environment, I would say at the beginning, don't set any smells and have your child pick what smells he wants. We actually did a video about this where I had like these oils that smell different, right? And I had lavender and I had these different ones, peppermint and different fruit. And then Simon could pick what he liked. And even the ones that he liked, he didn't want it really strong in his room. And it was good for him to be able to choose them because they weren't the ones that I would have chosen for him. We talk about this in our book. So my husband and I wrote a book called A Unique Normal, 12 Mistakes We Made Raising Autistic Kids. You can check that out in the link in the description below. Tip number 3 is make it a soft place. So with Ezra, he will bang his head against the wall sometimes if he gets really mad. And so we try to make sure things are padded and soft. Thankfully, he doesn't do that very much anymore, but he used to a lot more when he was like 3 and 4. But since he's 9 now, he's kind of thankfully grown out of that most of the time. But we have pillows and we have them everywhere, and we try and make their room and especially their beds a soft place, a soft environment. And you can use calming decor, rugs, and curtains to help absorb that noise, and that can be a really calming place. Tip number 4 is visually pleasing. I know I kind of talked about the bubbles a little bit, but I want to give you an example with Ezra. When he was in his room, he would look out his window and he loved looking at the birds. He loves looking at the tree. And then also he gets so excited when a car would go by. It was the perfect window. And in the room that he's in now, I love that they have like this little seat. It's a windowsill, but it's big enough that he can sit there and he can have his pillows and he can look outside. You can see here, he loves being in this little space and looking out the window. It's visually pleasing for him and it helps calm him down. If you can't have windows, or maybe windows are distracting, you can think about like what your child likes to look at, what is pleasing for your child. You can use lava lamps or fiber optic lights, visual projectors, or soft dim lighting rings. Please tell me what you want in your sensory room, whether you have it or it's something that you wish that you had in your own sensory room. And tell me why. Why would you like that in a sensory room? Comment below, because you never know who might be blessed just by reading your comment. Tip number 5 is one that's really important. Please simplify. Be aware of clutter and get rid of it. When Ezra started preschool, he walked in and I was there with him and I was like, oh no, I knew exactly what he was going to do. And he did it. He started taking books off all the bookshelves. Now, I don't exactly know why my 3-year-old Ezra, who's still nonverbal at 9 years old, did this, but I have a couple guesses. I knew that they bugged him for some reason. And I think it was because he was visually overstimulated. Also, he went to this preschool and I felt so bad. There were these other kids that were sitting around this round table and they were doing their little art projects. And they had like glue sticks and markers. And Ezra decided that all of those items that they were using to make their crafts needed to be off the table and out of the kids' hands. And I'm like, you can't do that. But it bugged him. It was too much clutter. He was overstimulated visually and he needed to get rid of anything off on any surface. We actually ended up going across the hall in that school, going to a different room that was made a little bit for his needs. Just keep that in mind when you're creating a space. Start simple. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I need this huge wall. It has all these different textures. Maybe that does support your child. But try it out first because some things can be overstimulating visually as well. So keep that in mind. Tip 6 has to do with calming pressure. So think about if you are sensory seeking and I don't know if you've ever worked with or have a child that really likes compressions on their arms or their legs or likes a massage on their head. It's calming for both of my kids. And so it is very common to have like something like a weighted blanket or something heavy that you can work with or carry or have on you, like a vest, can really help regulate an autistic child. Not every child's going to react positively to a weighted vest, but it is something that you can try. I like to mention Dr. Temple Grandin because she has achieved so much academically and in her, she's very successful, written lots of books from her point of view and really helped a lot of people that way. And one thing that I love about her story is that she actually created a squeeze machine so that when she was getting her master's degree, imagine, all of the stress and social expectations, and then put autism on top of that, she was able to deal with that stress and how she felt uncomfortable with this squeeze machine. And it just squeezed her. And it squeezed her. She actually talks about, in several books, how this came from the squeeze machine that was already invented for cows. And she's like, that actually might work for me. And she created one for herself. Tip number 7, now we are going into the activities instead of just like the sensory room or environment that you can create. If you're wondering if your child may be autistic, then please go see a professional, a doctor, and let them know your concerns. And while you're on the waiting list for that assessment, because sometimes that waiting list is really long, then you can click the link in the description below for a free guide, 12 most common signs of autism. And number 7 is a really fun one. It's creation. So what type of things does your child or do you like to create that helps bring anxiety down, that can help you de-stress and just help you regulate yourself? My son Simon loves to create with Lego. He loves it. It really brings out his imagination. He creates videos. He'll take his iPad. It's not really his, but it's one that he uses. And he'll start with the video and he'll press play. And then he'll say, quiet on set. And it'll be like, action. And he'll create these Lego videos. I would strongly suggest figuring out what kind of creation they like. Don't just like force them to like, hey, you're supposed to like Legos. Like, what if they don't? It's fine. But give them options and have them try out different things. You can even go to a store and test toys before you buy them, right? A lot of times they'll have toys on tables and stuff in bigger stores like malls. Now, tip number 8 might seem the opposite of creation, but it's not. It's demolition. And that is what Ezra loves to do. So when he goes into his room, he might be even really mad. You know, he's upset about something. And we're trying to support him. We're trying to help him, you know, bring down that anxiety. And if he gets to destroy something, that will help regulate himself. Dealing with all this sensory overload and too much sensory input, he loves destroying and taking apart the Legos. We have to be really careful because Ezra and Simon are in the same room, and so we don't want Ezra to just always take apart everything that Simon builds. But I will build something with Simon, and then I'll give it to Ezra to destroy, and it's like they're both happy. It's great. Tip number 9, I really hope you already know about this, but it's called stimming. If you don't know what stimming is, we did a video here, 12 examples of autism stimming. Definitely watch it. I won't go into what stimming really is because there's lots of examples and things like that. But the stimming that really helps my kids when they are like in sensory overload is running around like repetitively. Back and forth. That's Simon. He did that all the time when we were in an RV living full time. We visited all the national parks with 5 kids in an RV. My husband and I had a lot of fun. It was crazy. We learned a lot, but we still post regularly of our unique normal. So please consider subscribing. We post positive vlogs about autism and also educational videos like this one. And not all stimming is really positive because we've seen some stimming with Ezra and Simon where they might hurt themselves, might hurt other people, might hurt property, damage property. You don't want that to happen. We're going to try and give them a replacement item instead, or a replacement stim. So for Ezra, he really likes cords. He likes to manipulate them and throw them, put them around his wrist, pick them up and throw them again. He really likes doing that. With Simon, it's not only running, he'll stim with his hands. He'll stim repetitively in like smaller ways, I guess, like more. He'll go like this to my hair, and then he'll just like go like this. Or he'll go like this to his own face. He did it a lot when he was little, but still now, probably about once every day. He's 5 years old, and he'll still come up to me and just kind of go like this to my hair. Just really gently, because he knows he's not supposed to pull mommy's hair. But he'll just go be like, hi, Mom. Before I go into tip number 10, I want to explain what sensory overload even is. In layman's terms, it's when your brain is experiencing input, sensory-wise, right? Sensory input in a very uncomfortable way. It's uncomfortable to process that input, whatever it looks like for your child. So it's really important to offer support to someone who is dealing with that input that's really uncomfortable. Tip number 10 is movement. Movement can be gentle rocking. It can be swinging back and forth. It can be jumping on a trampoline. Movement can look different for everyone. I know one thing that really helps Simon is being able to move around in his room and also go aside and move around. They both, Ezra and Simon, have these little gliders that make it so they can move really fast. And they like that because that gives them power and autonomy to be able to move where they want to go and move fast on these wheels, you know, and having a bike. That is the type of movement that can really help with processing. One time we brought Ezra and Simon, well, the whole family to a Thanksgiving at my brother's house. It was a few years ago. And Ezra had a really hard time. As soon as we walked in, really difficult time dealing with sensory input in a brand new place. He probably had anxiety because it was new. and new places sometimes can be difficult for him to process. So he went downstairs to their basement and he found a sensory swing. He loved this swing so much that my brother ended up giving it to us that night. He was just like, here you go. And I was like, yeah, we need this. Thanks. I really appreciated that. Actually, that was really great. Thanks for that. But that type of movement was really beneficial for him to help process the input that was uncomfortable for him to process. Tip number 11 sometimes has a negative connotation, and I want to just erase that. I don't want there to be negative stigma around this tip. So that's why I'm making it its own tip number 11. And that is oral, like chew toys. So Ezra, a lot of times, this would happen for like 6 months, and then he wouldn't do it anymore, and then it would come back. And he had this habit of putting a shirt in his mouth and chewing on it so much that it would ruin the shirt. And, clothes are expensive sometimes. An occupational therapist thankfully taught me that, it's okay that he likes to chew. Get him a chewy necklace. She introduced that to me, and we got him some necklaces I really liked. He would never wear them around his neck, so that was a little tricky. I mean, it's not like everyone likes a chewy necklace, but maybe it's snacking on things. Maybe it's chewing gum. Maybe it's having some popcorn around to just stick in your mouth. If that helps regulate you, then that can be really helpful. Tip number 12 is something we use with both Ezra and Simon. It's super, super important. And it's self-regulation routines. So this is going to look different for every autistic person. Sometimes we practice counting down. Sometimes we practice a routine with a song that helps bring down that anxiety. When my children get overstimulated, then sometimes we do like breathing techniques. You could do stretching techniques. You can do yoga. You can do movement. You could also do guided imagery. Yes, that is the thing. And that's a routine that can help. And that's for an example of guided imagery. That would be like, okay, imagine you're at the beach. Imagine you're floating on a cloud, and you would describe the positive experience of some kind of calming environment. That's what tip number 12 is all about, is creating that routine and practicing off the field. If you are curious on how you can enter your child's world, I did a whole video on it here, and it's one of the most important parenting videos I've ever done from my perspective. And then right here is an autism playlist. And remember, if you have an autistic child, you're in good company.